India is all set to sign a once-in-a-generation trade deal with New Zealand. Now, in this session, let us understand what is in this trade deal for both India and New Zealand and what are certain exemptions. Hello everyone, welcome to Drishti IAS. My name is Saloni Nandkyolier. Let's get started. So in a bid for diversifying its market, India has been signing these trade deals, the CEPA, ECTA or FTA with different countries. So this is an FTA, a free trade agreement that we'll be signing with New Zealand. We signed one with UK also. Then there was CEPA that we signed with the UAE. So we are expanding our markets because we know that the global situation is not great. There is a lot of uncertainty. So in the best move, we must be expanding our markets, diversifying our options. And that is what India is doing. So we are going to sign this FTA. The negotiations started last year in March and the talks were concluded in December. Today, this FTA is going to be signed. Now, this FTA is actually being called one of the fastest negotiated trade deals because it took only some 8-9 months to conclude the talks. However, the initial level talks, they started a couple of years ago, but they were dormant for some time and then they picked up pace again in March 25 and by December we concluded things. Now, today we are signing it, but this does not mean that this will immediately come into force. Today is the signing day. Now, after signing, both the countries will have to domestically ratify the deal. Okay, we are just signing the deal. We are agreeing on the terms and conditions, everything. But after that, domestically, both India and New Zealand, they will have to ratify the deal. They'll have to ratify all the clauses of the deal. And after that, this will come into force. So the implementation will happen post-ratification. Right? Implementation will happen post-ratification, so it will take again some 8-9 months. By the end of this year, it's expected that this will come into force, this trade deal will come into force. But for us, it becomes important to understand what are the highlights of this deal. Okay, so this FTA actually talks about reducing the tariff on a lot of goods, services and a lot of other things. So this is an FTA, a lot of things are covered. Goods are covered, services are covered, then mobility is covered, student mobility, professional mobility, investment is covered. That's why it is being called once in a generation deal, because it is not limited only to goods. It has a lot of things, goods, services, investment and student mobility, professional mobility, everything of that sort. So it's a very wholesome kind of a deal. Okay. So in this, India is getting 100% tariff removal on its exports. So India and New Zealand, we already have a good trade relation. Last year, this stood somewhere around at $2.4 million. The trade between India and New Zealand was around $2.4 million. And in this deal, it is expected that we have to reach $5 billion. $5 billion in 5 years. This is also one of the goals of this deal. So 100% reduction on our exports, 100% tariff reduction on our exports will be provided by New Zealand in this deal. So 100% export reduction on our goods and New Zealand's 95% exports are going to be covered. India's 100% exports, 100% export on our tariff line. So whatever we are exporting to New Zealand, that will not have any tariff, any import duty on that. However, non-tariff barriers will remain. We'll talk about that also. Non-tariff barriers like any quality checks, any sanitary checks that have to be made, they will still remain. Tariff barriers will be removed on 100% of our exports. Okay, and for New Zealand, it is 95% of their export line. So we have also opened up our market. It's a great deal for New Zealand. It is getting access to a huge market. So we have opened some 70% of our market to New Zealand. Why 70%? Because there are some sensitive sectors that we have to protect. Certain exemptions are there. So we have opened 70% of our market, and this 70% of our market is actually making up 95% of the exports from New Zealand. So whatever New Zealand exports to India is covered in that 70% market. So this 70% market is a huge relief for New Zealand also. And in this 70% also, a tariff reduction of immediate, like a 30% immediate tariff reduction will happen on a lot of tariff lines, on a lot of categories, and others will see a phased removal. So what is in this FTA? Let's look at the pointers over here. India and New Zealand will sign an FTA that will remove tariffs on 100% of India's exports to New Zealand, right? Our 100% exports are going to be tariff free. Now please note again, this is a tariff removal, but non-tariff barriers will still exist, okay? And India will liberalize tariffs on around 70% of its tariff lines. Tariff lines are nothing but categories. So we are going to liberalize 70% of our category, 70% of our market, covering nearly 95% of bilateral trade with the Kiwis or with New Zealand, okay? And in this also 30% reduction will happen immediately, and others in other sectors, in other tariff lines, the reduction is going to happen in a phased manner. Then investment is also going to happen. I told you this FTA is once in a generation because we are talking about goods, services and investment also. So an investment of $20 billion is expected to be made by the New Zealand government in the next 15 years. So this investment is going to be in infrastructure, in renewable energy, in agriculture. So in a lot of different sectors, the New Zealand government is committed to invest in India. Investment of $20 billion. And a goal is there to basically double the trade to $5 billion in 5 years, right? From 2.4, we want to reach $5 billion. And a very important clause is also there, which is the future benefit clause. Future benefit clause, it's like the most favored nation clause, that let's say in future if India signs an FTA or any other trade deal with any other country and we start giving more preference or more relief to that country, then those tariffs or those tariff reduction, tariff removal things are going to apply automatically to New Zealand also. So New Zealand will not be discriminated against basically. So if any sector like in IT or in the wine sector, we start giving more preference to any other country, we start giving more tariff relief to any other country, that tariff relief is automatically going to apply to New Zealand also. This is also mentioned in this agreement. So this is the future benefit clause. Okay. And 6 sectors are said to benefit the most from this trade agreement. So what are those 6 sectors? We have agriculture and dairy linked trade. So our trade with New Zealand, it's also heavily dependent on agriculture and dairy. Though we are exempting dairy sector out of this FTA, we are not including dairy sector. We look at the reason for that. But from New Zealand, we import a lot of dairy products. New Zealand has a robust dairy industry, so we import a lot of dairy products from New Zealand. So this sector is going to benefit a lot. Then manufacturing and engineering goods sector is going to benefit a lot, particularly from India. We export a lot of engineered goods, so this is going to benefit a lot. Then there are garments, there is leather industry, footwear industry, that is going to benefit a lot. Pharmaceuticals and healthcare. Pharmaceutical is again a big export category for India. This is going to benefit a lot. IT and services, creative and education service also, because of the mobility clause that has been included in this. There is a mobility clause for professionals. So this basically says there are a lot of things. Okay, students have also been given certain relief, then working professionals have also been given certain relief, and tourists have also been given certain relief. So let's look at this. If we talk about students, so students who are studying in New Zealand, they can work for up to 20 hours a week. Along with studying, they can work for 20 hours a week. So this is going to help them do what? This is going to help them in financing their education, in taking care of their livelihood. So this is a clause for students. In fact, this is the first time that New Zealand has added such an annex in an FTA, that it is going to open up, or it is going to talk about or take care of the mobility of professionals and students also. So for students, we have this work along with study, this kind of a clause. Then we have a clause for tourists also. Okay, people who are going for traveling purposes in New Zealand, and let's say they want to stay there for over a year, maximum period is 1 year. So in that duration, they can actually do small work also, work in their cafes or in their hotels, or do any entry level work. So basically any small job is something that they can pick up to fund their own travel or to take care of their day-to-day expenses. This is the working holiday visa. This is called the working holiday visa. So tourists are also taken care of. Maximum duration is 1 year, and there's also a cap on the number of tourists. And then working professionals as well, skilled professionals. So working professionals, a quota of 5,000 visas has been kept for Indian skilled professionals, both in the traditional sector as well as in the modern sector. Traditional sector like your Ayush practitioners or yoga practitioners or chefs or music teachers, and modern areas also like IT, engineering, healthcare, education, etc. So a quota of 5,000 visas has been kept exclusively for Indian skilled workers. That's why this is such a big deal, that we are taking care of not just goods, we're also taking care of services, we're also talking about investment, we're also talking about students and working professionals and tourists and whatnot. Okay? And then mobility of professionals and youth, we already discussed this. So these are the key sectors that are being covered. These are the key sectors that are being talked about in this FTA. And this FTA is going to benefit both India and New Zealand, because New Zealand is going to get access to India's huge market. 95% of its exports are going to be covered, and a tariff reduction of immediate 30% is going to start. Another will also be done in a phased manner. And India is going to benefit a lot because 100% of our exports are covered over here. Tariff barriers have been removed. Non-tariff barriers will still exist, but there are exemptions, right? There are exemptions. So those exemptions are the sensitive sectors of our economy. Dairy products. So dairy products are usually kept out of FTA because it's a sensitive sector for India. Unlike New Zealand, dairy sector in India is about livelihood generation. People are consuming whatever they are producing. It's not highly export led, or it's not highly mechanized. So in New Zealand, it's mostly export led. A lot of machinery is used, and that's why we import a lot from New Zealand, import a lot of dairy products. But when it comes to our own export, we have to take care of our sensitive sectors, take care of the small and marginal people who are working in this area. So dairy sector, dairy products are actually kept out of it. Then animal products are kept out of it other than sheep meat. So there are cultural and religious beliefs related with animal products. So this again is a sensitive sector. It is kept out, excluding sheep meat. Vegetable products is also kept out of it. This also is mostly consumption led. This is also kept out of it. Arms and ammunitions for our security, kept out of it. Germs and jewelry is also an exemption. And copper, aluminium and their products, these are also exemptions. They are like, they serve the core sectors of our economy. So these are certain exemptions. They have not been kept in the FTA. They have not been included in the FTA. But largely a lot of things have been included, and this is going to benefit both. But we need to understand that it will not come into effect immediately. It will first be domestically ratified by both the countries, and then both the countries will mutually decide on one date for implementation. And after that, this will come into effect. So this was all for India and New Zealand's FTA discussion. I hope you enjoyed the video. Now we'll look at a practice question for prelims. And you know that we have a Studio GS Foundation live online course, which is going to help you prepare for your UPSC prelims and mains in 14 months. So you get 1250 plus hours of classes, printed class notes, and a live chat facility during the classes. You also have 3 mediums that you can choose from: English, Hindi and Hinglish. And the price of this course is 34,999. And you can also avail a further discount if you use this coupon code, which is SALONI, all in capital letters only. So if you have any queries, please call us at 87501 87501, and you can also download the Drishti Learning app. Now let's look at the question. With reference to the India-New Zealand Free Trade Agreement, consider the following statements. 1. New Zealand has agreed to provide India with nearly 100% duty-free market access for its exports. 2. India has fully liberalized all tariff lines for New Zealand under the agreement. 3. The agreement includes provisions for mobility of skilled professionals and students between the two countries. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? A. 1 and 3 only, B. 2 and 3 only, C. 2 only, or D. 1, 2 and 3. Please attempt this question and provide your answers in the comment section. Thank you for watching.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.